Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to try something a little new. At least new to us. We're doing a top 10 list style video, and we are going to, well, we have been brainstorming on a bunch of similar ideas for 2026 and beyond. So, this is going to be the first kind of take at that. We've been pretty busy coming up with a lot of new videos for 26, and this is just one of many. KP, shall we go ahead and get into this one?
I think we should. So yeah, like you mentioned there a second, Nick, we're literally just going to be going through 2026 wish list as if literally we've been given the reins of WWE and we're allowed to do whatever we want. So these are our top 10 sort of like top priority things we're going to be looking to implement, and this is what we would do if we had creative control. So, starting from the top, it's no real surprise to anybody that knows me quite well that I'm a massive Sami Zayn fan. And generally speaking, this is a man who absolutely deserves a world title run, whether that be the WWE World Championship or the World Heavyweight title. Either way, it'd be great to have him win one of those. He'd become a Grand Slam champion on the back of that as well. And just generally speaking, his in-ring work is so incredibly good. Like, it's quite underrated. I think just the tenure that he has in the company as well, based on the number of people that we've seen win the WWE world titles in recent memory, I don't think there's any reason why he shouldn't be winning this one now, to be fair. So yeah, I think it's just the last little tick off of his list in his career to accomplish, and then I think we could be happy with that one. But yeah, obviously I can talk until the cows come home about Sami Zayn and his credentials. But Nick, what about you? What's your thoughts on Sami Zayn being a potential world champion?
Yeah, obviously no issues from me, and just kind of a general kind of idea for the listeners. There's not a single thing on this wish list that both of us don't agree on. So we'll just kind of be adding to each other's bit here. But yeah, obviously no issues with me. Sami Zayn winning a title, obviously long overdue, a world title, given the location of the Royal Rumble, given that Drew McIntyre has a title and he's always had issues, never really been able to best Drew McIntyre. I think it just kind of writes itself. So absolutely a great call for number one. For number two, this one kind of applies only to the U.S. audience, or if you happen to live in a country that doesn't do this. But at least for US, I want all WWE content to be on the same streaming service. People in the US shouldn't have to use a VPN to do this. Over like in the UK with UKP, you don't really have that issue. Everything is kind of just on Netflix. I'd like the same for the US. So simple, but that's number two.
Yeah, I do sort of like feel for you guys when it comes to having to watch WWE, because the different ways you have to try and do it. You have to have this, that, and the other, and it just seems like a bit of a complex mess. Whereas obviously us in the UK, like you already glossed over, we've literally got all on Netflix. We can watch our PLEs, we can watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT. Unreal even goes on there as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are cooking up on Netflix, which is always great to have. It's just so simple for us. So yeah, it's only really the likes of like LFG and Evolve that aren't on Netflix, but you can do with just two of the, I guess, in the general sense of the word, smaller parts of the whole corporate franchise. So yeah, it's just so much easier to have it all in one place. So it makes sense. You guys should get that. And in things of that we should get as well, in recent years, I may have a different opinion to everybody else because, in fairness, this is very opinionated. But when it comes to the Royal Rumble, we have had some questionable winners in recent years, and just generally speaking, I feel like the Royal Rumble has just become something that isn't really as sort of grand as it used to be. Sort of like making like a very deserving new star in somebody and just shining them up and just propelling them up to a really big opportunity in their career. And I feel like in recent years we've sort of like I don't know, not really hit those heights, unfortunately, whether it's been different winners or whatever, or like just undeserved or whatever, things like that. It just hasn't had that special vibe that is used to having. So unfortunately for me as well, a lack of maybe surprise people coming on in could be a problem with that. I don't know if that's something to do with that, but it could be. So yeah, just generally, I'm hoping the Royal Rumbles deliver this year. Two good winners, two great matches. That's all I'm really looking forward to in regards to this particular point. But yeah, Nick, it's a big topic conversation. Everyone loves the Rumble. We just want it to be good, right?
Yeah, I think that's a simple, fair request. Last year, Jey Uso and Charlotte Flair not quite doing it for you. I would agree to that. And obviously, before Jay was Cody, and we all know, if unless this is your first push video, you know that KP is not the biggest Cody fan. So that does make sense. And I think similar to kind of like the Money in the Bank idea, you like to think the Royal Rumble will help kind of push someone to that main event scene, like kind of like the underdog role. So yeah, I think that's a great shout. And yeah, I have no issues with us getting a quality Rumble. It does feel like it has been a while. Getting to the next one, number 4 is Gunther to retire another part timer, and I'm calling out specifically Brock Lesnar. Obviously, you heard the rumors of him and Lesnar going at it at SummerSlam, which happens to be in Minnesota, which Brock Lesnar is from. This one doesn't really need any explanation, but Gunther is already in my top 5 on the men's side. So to be able to help us get rid of both Goldberg and Lesnar, for me, put him in the Hall of Fame. KP, thoughts on that one?
I got to try not to laugh too much because that was that was going to set me off otherwise. Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. Obviously, I'm not really a fan of Lesnar at all, and I just don't want really anything else to do with him in the company. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Gunther getting another name on his checklist of retired people. Yeah, count the boy in, absolutely 100%. And yeah, we can get rid of another one that just doesn't really do anything for me. So yeah, you get quite the list though at that point. You know, Goldberg, Cena, Lesnar. I mean, there's talks about Styles
Absolutely.
at the moment, so you know, that's quite crazy. So this would be another big name to add to that. And yeah, I think like that's sort of like something that I think we do hope for. This next one is quite a hopeful thing as well, because we did have somebody, you know, who's unfortunately not on our screens at the moment, and if we could get him returning in the year 2026, if healthy, because obviously, you know, you never want to force someone back when they're not ready, or if they're just physically not able to do so anymore. We would love to have a Kevin Owens return. Like, that would be absolutely incredible for you know, for us, because massive fans of Kevin Owens and all the work that he does. And just generally speaking, you know, his career was, if it is to that point where, you know, it's to be believed it was as bad as it sounds to be, then it's taken far too soon. So yeah, hope it's just a pretty bad injury. You know, it takes a bit of a while to recover, and then we do see him sort of take back into the ring at some point this year. Because it was just before WrestleMania last year that he had to call it a day in terms of you know, what he was currently doing because of that injury. So yeah, I mean, it's probably coming up to a good like 10 months now. So I guess we'll see what comes to be. But fingers crossed from me.
Yeah, and if you haven't already, please do kind of quick plug here. Check out our intro video for the push just recently put out there. But if you did watch that already, Kevin Owens is in our top 10 list, both of our top 10 lists. So this one kind of, you know, is pretty self-explanatory, but just an incredible talent and puts his body on the line for us in every single match. And so it's no surprise that kind of having these kind of career threatening injuries, but we're hopeful that everything goes well and he's back in the ring here soon. For number 6, this one is a little more explanation I think needed, and this is additional call ups from NXT. NXT is obviously very loaded, especially on the women's side. And I know what you're probably thinking. You know, we just got a bunch of call ups. You know, don't get too greedy. But you know what? KP and I are in charge now. So this is our list. So this is why this list is a little more women heavy because we've only had one woman called up now. Obviously, that is Jordan Grace. The rest of them have been men. So getting to the women in just a second, but I do think Ethan Page is obviously is incredible. KP and I absolutely adore him on NXT, and I'm just to the point now where I want him to be on the main roster because I want the casual audience and I want the main roster to be able to experience him too. And so that one's just kind of self-explanatory. The other ones kind of mentioned on there: JC Jane, Sol Ruka, Kendall Gray, Blake Monroe. Blake Monroe is a big one because I think she's kind of I don't think she needs to be on NXT. I think she kind of already has that entertainment factor. And then Kalani Jordan. So just the likes of those, getting those up on the main roster. And another kind of reason for that is because Jade Cargill currently recycling through BFAB and Michin. A lot of big names on the main roster are currently occupied with the tag division. So kind of a main point for that was we had too much women's talent in WWE for us not to have stacked divisions, and that's including each title like on every single level. It just the way it's being used right now, I feel like we're using the same opponents over and over. When we have all of that talent sitting at the NXT level, bring them up to main, fill up these women's divisions, and we have important, incredible rosters at every single level on the women's side. Because honestly, that has been lacking a lot, and kind of spoiling a bit, but we do have another point on this list that we'll kind of go into that more in depth. But I think initially with this point is filling up that roster more on the women's side especially, but then also just throwing in Ethan Page because it's Ethan Page.
Agreed. It is Ethan Page. It's all ego for a reason, and yeah, he is just that good. He's so much fun to watch on NXT. So yeah, definitely somebody that I would love to see get a call up at some point in 2026, whether it's early, mid, end of the year. I don't mind, but as long as it's sometime this year, I think that's needed for sure, because he's definitely worthy of having a spot on that main roster. And the same can be applied to the likes of JC Jane and Sora Ruka, possibly even Blake Monroe, Kalani Jordan as well, because they've been in NXT for a while. The majority of those, obviously Blake Monroe excluded in those names specifically there, but Blake's obviously been other pastures and has done very, very well in there as well. So he can definitely handle the spotlight in that sense. Kendall Gray, obviously I've excluded her for the time being. She only recently just come to NXT, but based on her talent, based on her credentials, she is the current Evolve Women's Champion, and I think by the end of the year, there's absolutely no reason why she can't be at least a mainstay top talent on NXT, let alone then going into possibly considered to be a call-up for the main roster. So, just these women have extreme levels of talent, and then obviously Ethan Page does as well, but just there's a large number of options, and SmackDown definitely need those women, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Talking about things that are absolutely needed, I think we definitely are both agreeing of this next point, because somebody who has been absolutely overlooked and just underestimated, underutilized for a large amount of time now is Finn Balor. And he has got himself in a position now where he's been lost in the shuffle. It's been unfortunate to see. This is somebody who was once the Universal Champion, the inaugural one as well. Unfortunately lost it 24 hours later because of obviously his shoulder problems. But since then, 0 world title reigns, which is unfortunate. And a lot of times where, I think there have been moments where we think he could have got back into a situation where he could have, elevated himself, but it just didn't happen. So what we would love to see happen to Finn Balor in 2026 is for him to leave the Judgment Day, to turn face, to get his original theme back, and just to run it back to what was the best Finn Balor that we had, and that was a very good, consistent, entertaining Balor. At the moment, we see this guy who's just, I don't know, part of the Judgment Day and doesn't feel like he's anything more than that, which is a shame. Him having the demon form, obviously we've seen that be kind of biffed on occasions in memory, which is a shame, but we can always try and work things out again and bring it back. And himself having a title run, I think, is definitely needed too. Some sort of single title, whether even if it's just the United States or the Intercontinental Championship to begin with, and then maybe we can work up to a world title at some point for him. But just trying to sort of like reinvigorate his career, because it's just going a bit stale right now. And that's a shame, because he's such great talent.
Yeah, it's absolutely criminal. August of 2016. So listeners, we're getting close to 10 years without Finn Balor main title, world title run. Obviously, he's had some mid card titles in between, but that just shouldn't. That kind of thing just should not happen. And getting into number 8, which is kind of on a similar light, is Drew McIntyre. 2026 Drew McIntyre will get his flowers, kind of as a thank you to all of the work that he's done. Obviously, he has 2 title runs, and we were discussing this off air too. All of his title runs are either under COVID or were very short. Obviously, that's the last reign, losing it within I think 5 minutes ish. So he's never had a title reign with fans. Arguably one of the best heels in WWE. It's simple. He's going to get his flowers in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely should do. And we've seen him, have so many opportunities in, the last few years, really, for those world titles. And obviously he's lost basically all of them. Only two come to mind. That was obviously the WrestleMania one against Seth Rollins, and then just recently beating Cody Rhodes. So now that he's got that WWE Championship, really hope they can sort of like just keep him working with it, and just allow him to sort of like steamroll through the year and just show everybody, what a champion Drew McIntyre can do in front of fans, because it's never been seen before. We saw it in COVID, no fans, and that's kind of a disrespect to the work that he can really put in. So fingers crossed he gets his flowers. He has a good run from it. And yeah, I think we hope for so much from these, and we've spoken a lot about single individual talents, but there's also a big glaring problem that we have noticed, and I think a lot of other people have as well, which is the tag team division. And just generally speaking, on Raw and SmackDown, there was a point literally this time last year, maybe a few months down the line actually, around the summer, and there would be a point where there were so many tag teams on SmackDown that were just you're literally just going against each other and just making such a competitive group of teams. And it was a really solid, special place to be for SmackDown in terms of their tag team division. But unfortunately, on the back of that, Raw had basically nothing to work with, or so they thought they didn't anyway. And they weren't presented in a good manner. And I want to highlight the Creed brothers specifically here, because back in NXT, when these guys were down there, literally watching them on a week-to-week basis, these guys are absolutely undoubtedly the future of tag team wrestling when they're allowed to actually do their thing. For some reason, they haven't been given that opportunity on the main roster in a vast majority of time, because they've only had like a couple of matches, as far as I can remember, that actually showcase what they could really do. And that was like right at the very start. And like there was another couple like at some point when they sort of realized that they were actually there again. But now they seem to have been forgotten. It's really unfortunate. I'll leave Nick to go through the Street Profits, but just generally speaking, what I'd love to say just before I pass over is just trying to get like a bit more of a solid sort of depth of the tag team divisions across both rosters, not just having them all on SmackDown and now seemingly being lost in the shuffle and nothing to do with any of them. Send some over to Raw, have it be competitive on both brands, and just generally just be a bit more logical and sensible with the split of the tag teams.
Yeah, would love to have put a draft option on this list, but alas, we found these to be a little more important. But getting into that as well, as you alluded to, the SmackDown roster, tag roster was incredible, and unfortunately, KP's biggest fear of when the Wyatt Six took over those titles has come true. The titles now feel like they are taking a back seat to the actual rivalry between MFT and Wyatt Six. So unfortunately, that fear has come true. We just kind of want all of these teams to get back to glory. The men's tag side on the Raw side feels like it has potential to be good. Like just the Usos and the New Day alone. Obviously, that's a credible threat right there. Then you have AJ Dragon Lee was just another bit. Judgment Day. Like there's no reason that both shows shouldn't be thriving right now. They have plenty of teams to do so, and we just want to restore those back to glory. Street Profits, another like criminally underrated. I think I would put them arguably in the same light as the Creed brothers, but just highlighting two teams of many that are obviously much, much better than how they're being portrayed. With that, we'll get into the final item here, and that is a competent women's division and championship reign. Of course, I'm referring to the main roster. I know our current women's champions, at least on the mid-card side, are very, very new, being Becky and Julia. But we saw how bad Julia's last reign was. Vaquera is going through a decent enough reign, but half of her defenses are against Nikki Bella, and Jade hasn't had a single defense yet. So go back and look at our call-ups in number 6 there, and this kind of worked with each other and would help kind of fill the gaps in these divisions they're just recycling the same kind of squashed matches, if you will. And the women's tag division feels like the most important title, which I'm happy for. KP and I both complained quite a bit on that particular division, but now it's by far the most important, and it's not close. So I think we need to kind of balance those out now, and I think those call-ups could help to do just that. And then one other bit there, I will let KP hit on that towards the end of this video.
Yeah, it's just one of those big things, because you got the men's division, which seems to be pretty sat across both shows, and then obviously with the women's championships, you do look at Jade Cargill and you think, what are you doing at the moment? And then you look at the names around her and you think, well, actually, what are you going to be doing? Because we just literally had Jordan Grace called up. from NXT, and she's going straight to Jade Cargill because who's stopping her? There's literally no one on her path to get there.
Exactly.
We literally had like Michin and BFAB, who, let's be honest, they're all right, but they're not like your world championship contenders. If you put either of them against Jade Cargill in a title match, you're not gonna bet on one of them to beat Jade Cargill, so it's not really going to happen at this point. So with the lack of names there, it's just already being apparent. You've got so many names on the Monday Night Raw roster, obviously in NXT as well. Let's bring some up, let's throw some over from Raw, and let's get a bit more of a balanced division. Very much like the tag division. Very, very similar in that sense. And just highlighting what Nick was sort of trying to allude to a moment ago. This is a personal thing of mine. This is almost like an 11th thing, if you kind of think about it. But I would love NXT's Fallon Henley, part of Face with Influence, to become the only ever NXT Women's Triple Crown champion. And in order to do that, she has to win the NXT Women's Championship. That's currently being held by her stablemate in JC Jane. So that seems problematic right now. But I would love it to somehow take place throughout the course of the year. That would be my personal sort of like wanting type thing, because no one's ever done it before. No one's ever been the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. I know that that title is no longer gone, but nonetheless, it was still a thing, and she won it. She's won the North American Championship for the women's division. She's won the Women's Speed Championship. That doesn't count on the list, but I'm just flexing here. So for her to have the NXT Women's Championship, to have all four, would be freaking sweet. So yeah, I would love to see that happen for her. But this is basically our 2026 wish list in a nutshell. And it's just basically what we would like to happen throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, and I think, and the reason we kind of coupled that, because it kind of just goes in hand with the competent women's division, not necessarily saying that that is kind of an issue with NXT, because it's not, but kind of the championship reign with Fallon Henley, getting her a long NXT championship reign would be great, and she's obviously deserved it. She's been thriving on a very stacked NXT women's roster, which is no small feat in itself. So that's our top 10. And then, like I said, this is kind of the first of, we have many ideas, and almost unlimited amount of ideas, it seems, we are currently working on. We've been quite busy over the last couple of weeks trying to picture and envision what we will have planned for you in 2026. So if you did enjoy this one, please let us know. If you were put in a similar situation, what would you do to change WWE's current landscape? Curious to hear about you. We see a lot of the IWC complaints, so shouldn't have any issues of people kind of adding their own thoughts below. But if you did enjoy this video, please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well, as it helps us out tremendously and just kind of helps us gauge how you are enjoying these kind of videos. So hopefully the first of many. But for now, this has been the latest episode of The Push with Nick and KP. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care.